Well, welcome, dear friends. And I have to say, friends, because the PSYCH-K community to me is one of the most important communities on this planet. And I say important for what? And I say, well, if you've been surfing the web, watching the news, or even just looking outside your window, you can see the world seems to be going upside down in chaos right now. Well, this is not a coincidence or an accident. Something's going on, and that is that human behavior has precipitated what is called the sixth mass extinction of life. 5 times life was thriving and some event wiped out up to 90% of life. The last one, 66 million years ago, a comet hit near the Yucatan Peninsula, upended the web of life, and the dinosaurs disappeared forever, and the forest got lost, and 75% of life actually disappeared at that time. So what's an interesting point is, how are we going to resolve this issue? And I say the biggest problem is this: most people are in fear. They're in fear because they see their known world starting to fall apart. The communities are breaking down, economies breaking down, food supply is really getting serious right now. It's a very scary time. And the significance is, if they keep focusing on the scary part, they don't realize is that they're manifesting the scary part. And you as facilitators really recognize that our minds are the creator. Well, you don't have to recognize that. You know why? Because quantum physics recognizes this. Quantum physics principle number one is consciousness is creating our life experiences. And that's when I ask my audience, I say, how's that working out for you? And most people start to look around like, it's not really very good. And I go, well, the issue is very important. And the quantum physics nature of this recognizes that energy is shaping the world we're living in. In fact, Albert Einstein's most important quote is, the field is the sole governing agency of matter. And field, what they're talking about is energy. And we all talk about an energy world and all that, but I'm talking about the energy of consciousness. And when we talk about consciousness energy, people think about putting wires on a person's head, and that's called electroencephalograph. And oh, there's a lot of activity going on inside here. And I go, well, that's true, but there's also something called magnetoencephalograph that reads brain activity. And the significance is the probe is out here. Now, just understand the profound significance of that statement is that I'm reading brain activity out here. And all of a sudden you have to recognize, yes, our brains are broadcasting, and they're broadcasting energy that's associated with our thoughts and our beliefs and our attitudes. And significant to that is, then you put that back into the story with Einstein, the field. Well, I say the consciousness is generating a field. Your brain is like a tuning fork sending out a field. And that, again, the field is the sole governing agency of the particle. And when people understand this, they have to recognize their field is shaping their world. But they don't know that because, hey, the people in power don't want you to know that, because actually to disempower people, we tell them they're victims. We show them they're victims. Oh, they're victims of their genes, they're victims of this and that. And if they buy the victim story, that's where the problem starts. Because as a victim, they recognize there's nothing that they can do about it, but they must get a rescuer to help them. Well, I'll tell you where the victim story is really coming to a head right now, and that is this: the leadership of this world clearly knows that the current situation is going downhill and crashing. The economy is broken and it's going to crash. And they have to hold the people together, because they don't want all of a sudden the economy crashes. What's going to be world chaos if you go to the ATM and there's no money in there for you. And they know that this is coming. And so what they need to do is control the population. And just to give an example of that, the recent so-called COVID plague is actually a creation, and it's not a real thing. They just scared people. And again, when people get afraid, they'll just surrender to what anybody says. And I said, well, what was the result of this? And the result was this: putting masks on so we can't see you really anymore, but more importantly, social separation. And I say, significance is this: people only have power in community. A person alone doesn't wield any power. And we have to help the community. And that's why you've taken this road, the PSYCH-K road, which I really laud you for a very important reason. This is the most profound way of taking people from victim to mastery. And we have to wake them up. And your job is really involved with that. Now, the issue is, well, where are we going? And this becomes really important because there's an old saying, there's a means to an end. And while people are so focusing on the means, they're not really focusing on what is the end. What is it we're looking for? Why? Don't work on the means. Leave the means alone. You have to focus on where do you want to go? What is the image you want? Because you're going to be broadcasting this field. So before you even broadcast the field, you actually have to have an image of what is it you want in that field. And this is the important part of PSYCH-K, is in helping us understand how do we get to the field. And I'm going to let Rob talk about that, but I just want to talk about this part. You need to set up an end that the means can get to. Once you have the end set up, guess what? Don't worry about the means, because your consciousness and your powerful subconscious programming will get you to that end. You don't have to be the babysitter of the mind here. You don't have to watch over it. You feed it the picture. And once you have that program built in, it's easy. Why? Well, your subconscious has been running the show all the time. It's just not been running it with the destination you've been looking for. So I really invite you to come to this very special program. I know you've been doing PSYCH-K, but there are advances in the PSYCH-K model that Rob is going to really emphasize a lot in this program. And these advances are greater empowerment for each one of us, each one of you. But remember, why I'm so excited about all this is, there's a science behind this. So this is like new age. No, this is hardcore science. And when you understand the science, then you understand how Rob will help us on the mission. And that's Rob's job, so I'm not going to talk about that. Well, I'll just talk about the science part and talk about how profoundly powerful you are and your consciousness. And that actually goes right back to the understanding of quantum physics. Rule number one, consciousness is creating all of this stuff. And I love it because in biology, guess what? Consciousness controls something we've talked about called epigenetics. I go, what is that? Consciousness controlling your genetic behavior and the character of your life. And all of a sudden you take the physics, you take the epigenetics, you put them together, and then you have the foundation that PSYCH-K is all about. PSYCH-K is going to help us take both those informations, the field and your consciousness, put them together so that you can be a creator. And that's what we are. We're all creators, but your job is help those people out there. They're so afraid of this world, and the government is trying to control them because they know it's going to explode. But if all of the people have their empowerment back, then the fear is going to disappear. Why? If we're creators, just what would happen if we were all creating heaven on earth? Well, of course, manifesting heaven on earth. And you are an important part of that evolution. That's the most exciting. I give in my lectures, I talk about belief change. And then, of course, I say, the one I'm most familiar with is PSYCH-K. And then I give the story of PSYCH-K and I talk about how change can be so fast and so quick. And they look at me and then I give them the story and I know they're hungry. They're hungry for this. And you're the provider. And so, again, it's not just something for you to do as a career. It's something for you to do to contribute to the evolution of humanity on this planet. You are an important element of evolution. And I so appreciate it because once I met Rob and was able to connect the science to the processing that Rob offered, it was like, oh my God, complete picture. That's it. So you know the processing and all that, and you know some of the science, but we're going to talk about new science, and Rob is going to offer all new information. So I look for you to be there because this is a very important advance in the PSYCH-K program that I really feel is so important for every facilitator out there to understand this, because you are the inter-between people between where they are now and where they want to go, and your role is vital. So looking forward to seeing you.
Köszönöm, hogy végignézted a videót, remélem, hogy tetszett. Én Konkoly Tímea vagyok, PSYCH-K facilitátor. A PSYCH-K módszer workshopjai rajtam keresztül érhetőek el Magyarországon magyarul. Úgyhogy, ha megtetszett az, ahogy Bruce beszélt a módszerről, akkor ezeken az elérhetőségeken itt megtalálsz, és én elmondok neked mindent azzal kapcsolatban, hogy hogyan tanulhatod meg, illetve, hogyha még nem vagy benne biztos, hogy szeretnéd megtanulni, viszont szeretnéd, hogy a tudatalattid abba az irányba vigyen, amerre neked jó, akkor egyéni konzultációban is tudunk együtt dolgozni, és tudlak segíteni abban, hogy a tudatalattid végre azt csinálja, amit te szeretnél, ne azt, amit ő jónak gondol. Úgyhogy, ha bármi kérdés van, egyéni konzultációra szeretnél jönni, vagy szeretnéd elvégezni a workshopot, akkor itt ezeken az elérhetőségeken keres meg, és nagy szeretettel elmondom, hogy hogyan tudok neked én, illetve a PSYCH-K módszer segíteni abban, hogy tényleg olyan életet élj, amelyet már nagyon régóta szeretnél. Köszönöm szépen, és remélem, hogy hamarosan találkozunk, vagy konzultáción, vagy pedig egy workshopon. Köszönöm szépen, és csodálatos szép napot kívánok!